healthcare system is broken, but it doesn't have to be. This is Revenue Cycle Optimized by Infinix Healthcare. We discuss the latest challenges in the revenue cycle space and provide actionable tips on how to overcome them at your organization.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today's session is titled Beyond Extraction and Into Trusted Revenue Cycle Action. I'm excited to be joined today by Charo Navadia, who's our Associate Vice President of Automation here at Infinix. I think Charo needs no introductions. She's been around on office hours for quite a few times, so is really a pro at this. I think everyone should be accustomed to her and what she brings to the table. She's been on office hours several times, but Charo works very closely with a lot of our automation strategy, AI-enabled workflows, as well as operational design needed to help healthcare organizations reduce manual burden, as well as improve performance across complex revenue cycle processes. So Charo, before we go any further, how you been?
Thanks, Stuart. I'm doing great, and thank you for having me here again. It's always been a pleasure to have a good hearty conversation with you on technology and RCM.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's really, I love having you on. I know you love being on here at the office hours, but you're so valuable to the development of all of our automation. It's kind of hard to break away because I know you're so busy and working hard on that, but you are working on some amazing things. So today's topic is going to be really featuring that extraction, mainly around document capture and what happens to that, how it goes into action. Today, we're going to talk about why document extraction alone is not enough, because document extraction has been around for a long time. But now what do you do with that data? How can healthcare organizations make data usable, actionable? Can they trust it? Connect the next best step in the revenue cycle regarding that. So with that, Charo, you ready to get started?
Yes, let's go for it.
Awesome. So the first question is, when healthcare organizations talk about document capture today, where do you think the conversation gets too narrowly focused?
I think I'll like to take a step back, right? I was just reading something, and whenever we are talking technology, and documents have been around for the longest, ability to extract information out of documents. Earlier, it was through OCR. Now there is AI capabilities that have come in that can get a context of the document and extract information. I think with the technology advancement, where most of the conversations are getting narrow, is we are trying to validate the technology and how good it is. Like, OCR, we had to kind of look at a template, identify each and every location of the parameter that I need. And with LLMs coming up, it's become so easy to extract information. But all we're talking about, what's the accuracy of extraction? How good is the extraction? Are you looking at everything? And I've seen enough AI competition talking about how accurate that extraction is. But when I look at it, it's as good as buying. And this was an interesting anecdote that I heard. Imagine buying a machine which helps you cook, and the only thing it does is it looks at a menu and tells you what ingredients to fetch. But at the end of it, you still have to cook yourself because you have to chop the vegetables and break the egg. So somehow extraction is just like getting that machine that just extracts the data and tells you, like, this is the data, but now do what? And I think as an organization, if you're buying technology, it is here to get your work reduced. And we need to go beyond extraction. We need to get into action. And I think that's the topic we're going to talk about, where let's not just focus on extraction. Extraction was always there. How can it get your job done and reduce your effort? And actioning it, integrating into your system, reducing your staff's work is what we need to look at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I like your analogy about cooking food because, it's not going to cook itself. I know maybe some episode of Star Trek or something that's in the future where, the Jetsons or something, it's like, oh, here's your food and it just appears, but it still has to take action. I mean, there's still the menu and there's the ingredients, but you still have to have something that puts it all together. So now, kind of going to the next question, why is extraction important but not enough? And I know that kind of sounds like, wow, yeah, you're real smart to come up with that question. But, when we think about revenue cycle workflows from that perspective, because we know revenue cycle is very complex. It's going to always be complex. But now we're looking at, why extraction is important, but not enough when we think about the revenue cycle lens, so to speak, in the workflows.
Extraction is primarily focused on extracting the data, which is patient information. So let's just take referral orders or let's take prior auths, right? Prior auth letters, what would it have? It would have the patient information, the treatment code or the procedure code. It would have the start date, end date, and the approval. But what do you do with this information? I need this information to be entered into my system accurately so that the patient can be scheduled. If I just get this information and it is not something that is getting action, that is where the challenge starts. Same thing happens to referral order. The more accurate the information is, the first name, the last name, or what kind of test or procedure did this user has been referred to. If I can get all the right information and it's accurately entered into my system, I would be able to get the right prior authorization triggered. I could have got the eligibility checks done. So the more accurate the information is, extraction becomes important. Imagine thousands of documents which are coming in need to be manually keyed in, not knowing the priority, where which one is stat, which is same day, which is something that can wait for a couple of days. You're just picking up documents as they come in, typing in. The person who's working on these documents probably is doing a task which could have been done by a machine in a much easier way, while they could be providing patient care. They could be solving complex problems. They could be filing appeals where required. They could be asking for more documents. So extraction is an extremely important step, especially knowing the volume that comes through fax today and having the accurate information going into the system so that there's scheduling happening, there's prior auth happening in a faster pace by priority. So extraction definitely plays a vital role and is definitely something that can be removed from the humans' work queue because they are to do more interesting, intelligent, patient caring work instead of just copying and pasting.
Right. Because even I can remember copy and pasting was such a cool thing. It's like, oh wow, that's great. But now it's like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But once data is extracted from a document, so that's really cool. But where does manual work still tend to creep back in? You can have all the automation that you want in that extraction of document, but there's still, something manual going on in the background.
Yeah, so that's where the trust in automation is where I've seen a challenge. And that's something we, as a technology powered RCM company, understand that it's very easy for the staff to not have trust on a particular data extraction. Reason being, there was a complex case or there was a CPT or a procedure code not written well, and it just went through the system because it was extracted, got added to the EMR, and there was an escalation on it. They got to know that, oh, the procedure code was wrong, or the patient that you attached this information to was not the one, there was another one. So the moment there are even a few escalations, I have seen that while the extraction is happening, we are doing 100% evaluation of did the automation do its job? And that is where the manual work starts creeping in. So it's definitely an important leadership lesson that you are bringing in automation to reduce work. But if there is a trust issue where teams are redoing the work that was done by automation, something is off and we need to work through building the confidence. I have seen enough instances where the document extraction was done, but 100% of the document extracted values were checked again, which was not the process earlier. And that kind of negates any kind of automation that's happening. So definitely something to look out for and see what's the reason for lack of trust and kind of work towards bringing in the confidence. Probably it's training, probably it's fixing the software. So one of the top areas that I've seen.
Yeah, I can see that. It's almost like it seems a little crazy, kind of counterintuitive, where you have someone who's going to say, hey, we're automating this. The work is done, and you trained it. You spent all this time to make sure the process are set up, but you still have, whether it's one person or the whole team, checking behind, or maybe someone's checking a little bit. I do believe in checking every once in a while, maybe taking a subset of information and data, because the AI is just like a human employee. There's got to be some KPIs. There's got to be some standards where you're checking the work just like you would, but you don't check a human specialist work, everything they're doing. You just take maybe a subset of it, But yeah, it is crazy where but I can definitely see that because they're either trying to hang on to that process and they're following along just in case everything shuts down. The key word you said, and you're spot on, is trust. And I don't think people are quite there yet, but hopefully we're getting there. But kind of switching, a little bit along those lines, well, what does it mean to make documentation data usable, actionable, and connected to the next best step in the revenue cycle?
So the learning that I've had while working with so many of our customers, while the document extraction may be specific to a particular data that has been extracted, but it needs to be converted into the data that the system understands. It could be the requirement for signature. Is it there or not? While I see a signature, but what the system wants is a yes or a no flag. There could be certain code, and this is one of the top customers we work with, they do have procedure codes, but with every facility, the way they want those procedure codes to be mapped kind of changes because that's how the provider wants those procedure codes to be mapped along with some billing code, certain modifications. They want additional modifier to be added. So, what is extracted to how the customer wants it in their system, which they are used to in their existing process, that is the place where we need to bring in the right business understanding, the right rules, as well as alignment to our customers' process. And I think that has been our success because we've been in the RCM business enough to understand these nuances, how there are exceptions, there are facility specific rules, not just customer specific rules. There are certain providers who want the data in a particular way within the facility. So our systems are capable enough to understand and get modified as per our customers' requirement so that we really get their job done. And it's not just about extraction, but working with their business and really having the outcome at the business level.
Yeah, and that kind of segues into the next question because everyone kind of looks at AI particularly, and automation has had its day, even in Outlook. I use automation all the time to sort where my emails go, right? And that's been around for a couple of decades. But everyone kind of looks at AI as like, hey, I'm going to give you a prompt, you're going to give me an answer. I'm going to give you a prompt, you're going to give me an answer. But this idea now of extracting information, which you've covered, and then triggering that action. So now the AI is actually thinking about what action needs to be taken. It's still automated. There's still some things it has to know, before, with the machine learning models and everything. But, why does the underlying technology foundation matter?
I think that drives everything, right? Two parts to the answer. One is the AI. The models that we are talking about, the LLM models, they're constantly changing. Every month, there is a new, improved, better model that's coming in. There's cost involved. You're always evaluating what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. The models are getting deprecated. So, having a good technology foundation that can handle this volatility of the LLM world is the first step. As we scale operations, we've always worked with customer on a ramp plan. Everybody takes time to have trust in the system. Now, while I may start with a few thousand documents, but if I have 19 facilities and I'm growing up to 44,000 documents a month, or probably I've seen customers where 44,000 documents is a day's volume, being able to scale to that in under a month is something that really needs a technology backbone, which is stable, consistent, because every time you're automating, you're probably ensuring that your staff is focusing on your work. At the same time, as a business, you are carefree that you can scale more because anybody who's automating is already thinking about scaling their business, reducing costs. And that's where the technology backbone, which we have, kind of supports these scales in a very consistent way. So we've seen sizable amount of transactions or documents that we process today. The volumes go up, the volumes go down, but it's the reliability and the consistency that matters in any of the businesses because they want to serve their customer consistently.
Right, right. And this is kind of where, we were kind of talking in prep for this episode, and wouldn't you think that's the role of the hyperscalers, that we partner with? Is that,
Yes.
so, I mean, yeah, we can build our own models, which we do, our own LLMs, which we do, but then it's those hyperscalers that can help us take it to the next level.
Yes, and I think we have very promising partners whom we have worked consistently, which give us variety of locations where our servers work from, if I have to go technically deeper into it. But there's always a fear of what if it stops? What would happen to my business? It's our tie-ups with our hyperscalers, not one, but many. You can talk AWS, you can talk Azure. These are the partners that we have in the technology world, whether it's hosting our solutions, it is getting the models, ability to modify these models. They have been an amazing partner for us who allowed us to be able to serve our customers with flawless execution because of the power that they bring to us at a platform level.
Right. Yeah. It really, it's almost like it does take a village, right? And these partnerships. And we've always had the emphasis of, well, why build it if someone else has it already? I know that's kind of been our motto, but we found that a lot of times people don't have it, but we build it. But then to your point, the hyperscalers really help us make sure it's going to be, be there and working and very operational. So it kind of leads into that. My final question, for you would be, when healthcare leaders evaluate AI-enabled workflows,
Mhm.
what should
Yep.
they be looking for in terms of that scalability, governance? I mean, we all know AI needs governance, reliability, interoperability, and that human oversight. Some of the stuff you've already touched on, but maybe go a little deeper with it.
Sure. So I think whenever the leaders are looking at any solution, obviously the track record of the organization makes a difference. How many such services or products or features that they already have, that is what is very easily available. But what is the discovery process? How do you understand the process of their organization and how do you bring in the solution into their organization? I think that is what matters the most. So solutioning is the top priority. After that, when it comes to being able to roll it out, I have always believed that every organization has different kind of documents. Ability to validate the solution as part of solutioning is what I would always recommend. You may have different kind of documents. We as Infinix today through Doc Capture Plus support close to 13 to 15 different kind of documents which we can automate. However, it has always been a consistent practice that we get into where we understand their setup. We understand how their documents are. We validate against it, show them the results, and then we start ramping up. So first thing would be validating how the technology works. Second is the confidence. The outcome, if not confident, should have human in the loop. And that is where, again, we are able to have a blended model where it is technology and humans come together and get your job done. So that is another piece where am I just going to increase my staff's work where instead of reading documents, now they're checking all the documents again because all the system is probably doing is extracting and giving it to you. Why don't you check everything? It's just transfer of data, but your staff is still doing that. But the solution that we've always understood is AI is not 100%. AI will have its own challenges. Wherever the confidence is low, we have our guardrails. We have our teams taking care of finishing the job. And then we also integrate back into their system because we understand during the discovery, the business rules, where they want these documents going. And that's how the end-to-end solution is what we work on. And I think that's the right way to do it because that is the only way the work will shift away from their staff so that they are free versus instead of just typing in the documents, they're approving the documents. And there are enough memes these days which shows the user, instead of task one, they've started doing task two, which is equally
Right.
troubling.
Right.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
it's good to check where the work is going. Is it really getting eliminated or you're just shifting it?
Right, exactly. And sometimes, in some cases, I've seen where you've tried to improve efficiency with a technology like this, and you run the danger of even increasing work, right?
I've seen that.
Yeah,
And that's where you're shifting the task and you're adding the quality check on it. You've just doubled the effort instead of reducing it.
right,
And I think we've worked with our customers to correct that approach by building trust and showing them results. It took time, but it works flawlessly after that.
Yeah, I can remember back in the day when OCR first came out, and I know I'm dating myself when I say that, but when OCR first came out, it was like, oh, this is great. It's going to automatically read our text and populate it into a system, and it was great, right? But then I remember going back and editing what it had pulled out because it was just, back then it just wasn't very accurate. I was like, I can put this in myself faster than the OCR can
Exactly.
extract it. So that's kind of the same scenario. You just don't want to create that. You want to make sure that it is truly not only reducing work, but we like to call work orchestration. And true work orchestration is when you automate everything, truly automate. And I'm not talking about, to your point, we're automating process, but now you're also automating the action to be taken based on the data. So it understands this is the data, not only extract the data, but understand the context of that data and then take action based on that context to where no human intervention is needed. And I know that there's some numbers that we have, particularly like for our dot capture application. I don't know, it's the last I heard, it was around 70-80% efficiency. It's probably better than that now, right?
Yes. So I think our extraction has always been pretty great. Of course, in the order world, there is a lot of handwritten and we are very cautious about it. But we have seen enough samples, whether it is charge entry, it is invoices, it's digital records. We've been as high as 95% when it comes to extraction.
Wow.
And in some of our customers where the integration exists, whether it is HL7 or it is through API, because of our capability of understanding business rules and navigating through their systems through various integrations, we have been able to automate 95% data entry without touch, especially when the documents are good. So the promise is pretty high. It just depends on how you come together as a team between the customer team and us, put a proposition together, and we've seen true results where end-to-end automation is possible with timely audits, which gives you the confidence and the trust that the system works.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're going to go to Q&A. The first question, Charu, is if an organization already has document extraction in place, which many do, I'm sure, how should leaders evaluate whether the remaining manual work is a workflow design issue, a technology limitation, or an integration gap?
I think, yeah, that's a very good question. And we do face that quite a lot. There are a lot of EMRs, if I talk about the order entry space, that limit you today to integrate, especially when it comes to creation of new patients. And I think it is valid. There are times that we have seen where creation of patient could be detrimental because what if this patient already exists? The data gets split. So I would always consider having some amount of human validation before a new patient gets created so that there's no duplication of patient records. But at the same time, having to be able to create orders, sort information. Again, an anecdote that I would like to go back with. I was working with one of the customers. They had 2,000 plus correspondence coming through every day. And what would happen because of the pile that would keep increasing every day, because there's only this much that you can process, there were legal notices that were getting hidden under the pile, which had date and timelines attached to it, and they were getting delayed. Now, this is where technology comes in, where one, it could classify and extract data, it could identify that this is urgent, and maybe at this point of time, there is just boxing of these documents into different folders. You don't have to integrate everything, but at least your initial sorting and tagging the information and maybe to EMR. I wouldn't want to limit our use case to EMR. Any document that needs tagging, sorting, classification, and routing is where Doc Capture Plus comes in. And I would call out to all the leaders, while EMRs may have limitations, we do have capabilities of HL7 and API. So the new EMRs do support that. There are web-based EMRs that probably don't have integration because probably the volume or the integration cost is high. There is robotic process automation or RPA that can still help you do that. It can log in like a human does, find the patient, update the data, attach the document. And then there could be certain documents which you don't even want in your EMR. It is just another team that looks at it. In such a scenario, the sorting, classification, and indexing of those documents and sending it to right folders should be able to automate your processes. So I would want leaders to think a little broader when it comes to faxes, not limit themselves to orders. And they would see a huge efficiency when they look at the universe and not one specific use case where Doc Capture Plus can be used.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, we're going to have one more question for you. And it's, as AI-enabled workflows begin triggering downstream action, what level of oversight, governance, and performance visibility should leaders expect before they trust automation at scale? There's that word, trust. So,
Yes. And it's a very, very fair expectation because automation does bring certain fear of going wrong. So if it was a human who would have made a mistake, that mistake would be once or twice. But if automation goes wrong, it can be a disaster at scale. So we totally understand that. And anytime a leader is looking to roll out, of course, we always recommend audit processes, but that's way later in the cycle. How we've always worked with our customers is looking at their facilities. First of all, finding an ideal candidate facility, which will be a trust builder facility, is what we call it, which has good documents. We can prove the results, we can show it to them. It's easy to train on. And once I have a small group of candidate facilities, which are our first cut showcase group, the trust starts building within the group. And then we slowly start rolling out. So finding the ideal candidate for rollout is one thing that we always work on. Second, we have a ramp plan and a hypercare, which are two parts. Slowly start rolling it out to more facilities, keep the metrics on, keep measurements on. And as the trust goes up on the solution, that is where you flip to fully automated with audit as and when needed, which we always have within our system. We have continuous audit feedback learning that happens. We also have guardrails where we do identify there is a high value CPT that I always want to make sure there's somebody looking at it. There is an urgent case, once extracted, I want somebody looking at it. So the current system allows you to optimize on how you want work done, which ones you want to let go, and which ones you want audited no matter what. That's what has helped us build the trust and the rollout plan with our customers. And the point is, you can change these rules once you're ready, or you can change these rules never. We've had both kinds, and I think it totally is controlled by them that empowers them to make decisions.
yeah, that's amazing. So it really does truly sound like it's custom built for that particular organization's practices, how their workflows. You're not necessarily changing their workflow, but you're just inserting automation into their workflow to be more efficient. Now, you could be changing their workflows. That could be what someone needs, but not necessarily a total overhaul. And I think that sometimes I hear that from clients is like, well, how much change? Because people hate change, especially a team. You know, they have their ways of doing it. They have their queues, they have their spreadsheets.
Yeah.
There's a love-hate relationship with spreadsheets. But yeah, I think mitigating change as well, which is probably a whole nother topic for an office hours, that we'll do at another episode.
Yes.
But we're out of questions. Charu, as always, thank you so much for joining us. I know getting you on is always a treat and is always great because your time is very valuable. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for having me. It was great talking to you.
And thanks to everyone else for joining us. You can also visit Infinix.com for more articles, case studies, and insights on all things revenue cycle. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to get notified when our next episode is online. For more information for how we can help you increase reimbursements at your company, check out our website at infinix.com. That's INFINX.com.